Oh dear. G'day everybody.
Howdy.
My name's JP, this is my colleague Merrick. Today we're excited to share a story that some of you may be familiar with or about to go through. How do you migrate from one SIEM to another without bringing your SOC to a halt? So earlier last year, my leadership gave us a challenge. They wanted us to switch our SIEM, do it fast, and not have any downtime. So we did manage to pull it off with Cribl's help, and we completed our seamless transition in the span of a few months. So in this talk today, I want to walk you through kind of how we pulled this off, the problems that we had, the constraints, and how we solved it, kind of a little high-level overview of what our old architecture looked like, why we went with Cribl, and the reasons we chose that. And then I'll go into kind of a high-level overview of the migration itself, the phases that we went through and the steps that we took. Then we're going to go through the kind of key outcomes of that and the new capabilities that Cribl gave us, as well as go over our new architecture and where we are today, a year later. And then at the end, we're going to share with you some do's and don'ts that we ran into, hopefully some learnings that you can take away, and a few kind of key lessons we learned from the whole experience. So my name is JP Lumsdaine. I'm Security Engineering Manager at John's Controls. I've been in the logging game for nearly 15 years now, and I've been at JCI for a few. And I love working with logs. I've worked with many different systems over the years. We're really excited to be here at Cribl today.
I'm Merrick Besselman. I am a cybersecurity engineer on JP's team. I've been in the cybersecurity space for 5 or 6 years now, and I keep finding myself going back to SIEM and logging, so it must be fun.
Cool. All right, so let me cast you back. So we kind of had two main issues we needed to solve. One, when I started, we had kind of an older, suboptimal logging architecture, and I'll get into that in a minute. And then, as I said, my leadership said we wanted to move. We had Splunk. They wanted to move to CrowdStrike Next-Gen SIEM, and they wanted to do it right away and with no downtime to the SOC at all. That was very important to them that the logs continued to flow as we moved from one to the other. Why move SIEMs? Business choice, different operating models, things like that. They will do much the same. So here's a kind of high-level look at what we used to have, and this may be familiar to a lot of people who use Splunk. We had everything running through the heavy forwarders. Three kind of main areas of data collection: our syslog tier, various SaaS platforms that we had, and of course our universal forwarders. This is kind of something worth getting off anyway, even if you're not moving SIEMs. And using a different collection architecture. But yeah, everything was passing to the heavy forwarders. They're hard to scale, as I'm sure people know, when you've got a tier like that. Lots of overhead, comp file management, things like that. And you've got kind of single tier collection. It's not great. So we wanted to move away from that anyway. Now we had a few constraints, very small team, we're not a technology company, manufacturing business. So we had kind of limited person power to make this kind of move, and limited infrastructure capacity to deploy on-prem as well. So we're looking for something that could scale really easily, and that was very easy for us to manage. We have a lot of decentralized IT and app teams, so it was important to us that we had a solution that would be able to receive data from almost anywhere, and in fact send it to almost anywhere as well. There was interest not just from our SIEM teams, but other teams as well, running analytics platforms that wanted to get data. So we were really looking for a solution that could manage those multiple sources and multiple destinations and get the data to where it needed to be. So why Cribl, right? Obviously, it ticked a lot of these boxes. We were looking for something that could easily scale, and Cribl definitely has that ability. We needed something that could be in the cloud, and we could add additional nodes whenever we needed, and drop that back down as well when capacity changed. As well, we wanted something easy to deploy in various different scenarios. Like I said, very decentralized IT teams that have different, some are in public cloud, some are on-prem, some use Kubernetes, some are using VMware. So we needed a solution that was easy to deploy across all that kind of stuff. As well, we were looking for something kind of vendor neutral. It's nice to have the collection tier kind of decentralized from the source and destination. That way it gives us more kind of strategic flexibility of how we manage our logging and metrics. And yeah, just kind of satisfy that long-term goal, decouple the collection from the destination. While it wasn't a specific thing we needed, controlling licensing costs, I've been in this game long enough to know that while we didn't have a big licensing issue at the time, we were going to have one eventually. So we definitely wanted a solution where we could reduce that licensing if we needed to. And as well, we're looking for hybrid architecture, definitely needed to be cloud and on-prem. And again, something that was easy to manage, which I'm sure you've seen in various talks here, Cribl definitely is. So we picked Cribl as our solution. And then, yeah, so how we did the move. So again, trying to move from Splunk to CrowdStrike. We did a kind of 3-phase program working with Cribl's sales engineering team. First of all, we wanted to set up introducing and validating Cribl as a pipeline for all our data. So that was the first thing, and to validate that the data we were getting through Cribl was the same that we were getting through Splunk, and that there was going to be no change for the SOC. Then our next phase would be to cut over to Cribl and start setting up CrowdStrike and migrating detections and engineers across to there. And then the last step would be to fully migrate the SOC across to the new SIEM, and then start migrating all the sources from the Splunk heavy forwarders to Cribl as the single source. So that first phase looked a little bit like this. So you can see here, as was in our earlier architecture slide, we kind of had our syslog, SAS, and forwarders coming into our heavy forwarders. We stood up Cribl as a second destination to the heavy forwarders. And the reason for this was, it's kind of easy to do with the heavy forwarder, but we wanted to make sure that the data that was going to go from the heavy forwarders to Cribl would then be exactly the same as the one going from the heavy forwarders to Splunk. So we put that in, created, it's very easy in Splunk to add Cribl as a secondary source because it can act as an indexer, and then forward the data over to Splunk. Right, and then this was then starting to get a bit more complex, where we cut over from removing the heavy forwarded Splunk cloud connection. So this way, we had all the routes set up in Cribl that the data could come in from the heavy forwarders and go to Splunk. So we removed that direct Splunk heavy forwarded to Splunk connection. Then we introduced the new SIEM, CrowdStrike, and started to set up the inputs on that side. So right now, at this stage, you have the SOC still working out of Splunk Cloud, but we can start to set up the destinations in CrowdStrike and start working on the parsing. This CrowdStrike's quite different. It's schema on write versus schema on read. So you have to make sure your parsing is absolutely correct, or the data won't be, fields won't be searchable. So there's a lot of work to be done there, but we started doing that. Again, the SOC's not impacted at this stage. And the incident response guys can start training on the CrowdStrike platform with real data at this stage, which was a great benefit to them. And then also, in parallel, we started to move some of the SaaS platforms over to Cribl, creating REST collectors, that kind of thing, pull sources for the clouds, starting to get some of that pre-work done. And then the final kind of stage was to get to our kind of final architecture. So here we've removed the heavy forwarding tier completely. Cribl is acting as a syslog collector. It's pulling in and receiving data from SaaS platforms. You'll also notice there, as a kind of parallel effort, Dynatrace was rolled out across the environment. Not something we manage, but we were able to receive logs in then from there as well. And then what we did then, we have all the data going into CrowdStrike. We were able to keep Splunk Cloud running and then also have that available to our SOC. So if they needed to perform investigations under time pressure, they might be more familiar with Splunk, so they were able to hop on there. As well, for historical data, we had Cribl Search able to search our Splunk archive and retrieve data from there on demand for some of the older stuff. So that's kind of where we got to there. Moving the sources to Cribl was kind of one of the longer parts. There's two main classes of of data in terms of ones that support multiple destinations and ones that don't. If they support multiple destinations, it's easy. We just pointed them to Cribl as well as to our existing Splunk heavy forwarders, and then cut over when we're ready. Some of them only support one, so that requires a slightly different methodology. You have to set up a test, set up some test routes, make sure you're happy with one or two devices, and then cut the whole lot over. So we're able to do that and leverage I'll take a note about the Splunk Cloud stuff. So when we did this, we had to set up searching the Splunk archive buckets kind of manually with Cribl Search, but that's now an actual data source within Cribl Search. You can point it to your existing DDSS and search the data that way. And then I'm going to hand it over to Merrick, and she'll talk about some of the key outcomes that we had from this.
Thank you. Okay, so some of the key outcomes we realized from this project, starting with the no SIEM downtime for the SOC. This is really important and actually something that it was a key takeaway. So we were able to continue supporting Splunk as we transitioned over to CrowdStrike because of Cribl. So Cribl supporting multiple destinations was able to help us with that. There are multiple instances where our IR team needed to go back and look at their historical Splunk searches. And mimic those in CrowdStrike. So that was very helpful. And we supported that until the license was up. So it was a few months where we were able to do that. Another thing, the cutover was accomplished in 6 months, and we like to joke that it was with 1.5 people. JP started it on his own, and I came in about halfway and was able to help him finish it up. But it was only with the two of us, really. And we also had other responsibilities outside of SIEM and logging that we needed to continue. So we were able to accomplish it with Cribl, of course. And then numbers go up. We were able to use best practice for data collection. So previously, we didn't have that high availability and scalability that we are now using Cribl. So that has been a very nice thing to switch to. And then we've been able to unlock capacity by adding more data, and I will review that on this slide. So here are some of our stats. This is a year after implementing Cribl. Here is some change. Starting with the throughput increase, so using Splunk, we had 1 terabyte of data coming in every single day, which is not reflective of how big our company is. We have about 120,000 employees, and we can see that now using Cribl. We have 7 terabytes coming in, and we have multiple destinations now, so that's gone up to 16 terabytes going out every day. And then the destination increase, we're feeding live 5 log analytics platforms, Dynatrace. We have a small team using Splunk still, SolarWinds, CrowdStrike, and Cribl Lake. So that has been very nice, being able to send it to multiple destinations. And then peak ingest. So there was this really shows the scalability of Cribl. So there was a day where we needed to go and add a lot of data really quickly. And with just a few clicks of a button, we were able to scale up our infrastructure very easily. And in a day, we went from 6 terabytes to 17 plus. So we tripled what we were bringing in one day. We were able to support that for a few weeks. We did cut that back, but it was very impressive that we were able to do that. Okay, so a high level of our new architecture using Cribl. Whenever Splunk or JP adopted the Splunk infrastructure at JCI, it was very immature, not very built out. Now we feel like we are in a very mature area using Cribl and CrowdStrike. It is very nice to have a single pane of glass, so instead of logging into multiple web interfaces all the time, just having everything in one interface, that's been very nice. We're able to support multiple worker groups. We have on-prem worker groups and Cribl managed, and ours are in physical data centers, multiple clouds. We have Kubernetes, so lots of those. I mentioned the high scalability earlier, and then multiple sources. We've really not run into a source that we haven't been able to onboard, at least with a little bit of elbow grease and work. So JCI, again, a very big company. We have every public cloud you can think of, multiple IDPs that we use, multiple SaaS platforms, and we've really been able to onboard all of them. We've not run into any that we haven't. And again, like I said, we're able to support multiple destinations as well. Something else I wanted to mention, we were worried about moving away from that Splunk app ecosystem. Splunk does make it very easy to onboard data and support that with their apps. But I will say we were able to use REST and script collectors and Cribl to kind of mimic that. And we've not really found any issues with that. So that has been another thing I'll touch on later. So this is the current state. I wanted to add this in here to show you that we're not joking. This is our monitoring page. That is 6 terabytes of data. So of course, we're looking forward to the new monitoring features that Cribl offers. But yeah, this is ours. Okay. Some of the new capabilities that we've been able to realize. So I already touched on scalability. Of course, it's very important. Timestamp and time zone normalization. So with moving to CrowdStrike, one of the things we were asked by that team for sources is, can we normalize the timestamps and the time zones? Again, a global company, we have multiple time zones, multiple timestamps coming in, and CrowdStrike isn't really able to support that. They want it all in one. So we're able to use Cribl to go and normalize that data without having to reach out to the app teams and have them change the configs and everything. So that's been very nice. The flexibility is really nice. All the tools to help. We don't, again, rely on the app ecosystem. There's a lot of out-of-the-box collectors, and using the REST and script collectors has been very nice and flexible. The live data capture has been a game changer, being able to see data in motion and look at errors, or again, we have to set up a lot of the parsing in CrowdStrike. So having to be able to look at the data before it ever goes to the SIEM has been really nice for us to set up our new architecture. Multiple workspaces, we actually are just now, like in the past few weeks, we are onboarding a separate team to our tenant using the multiple workspaces. That has been very nice. There was a talk yesterday on that, and how to onboard. So suggest go watching that if you're thinking of doing that. And then being able to do that with a click of a button, super easy, very nice. And the licensing as well is something that we've loved. Having being able to use all the products simultaneously has been very nice without having to reach out to sales and go, hey, can we try this? Can we get a license for this? It's been great. And the search in place, you mentioned this earlier, but we have all of our Splunk archives in an AWS S3 bucket. So using search, we've been able to go back and pull logs. There have been a couple instances where the SOC team has reached out and needed old data, and we've been pretty easily able to go into search and do that. And we haven't needed to, but click of a button, again, we could go send that to CrowdStrike. So that's been nice. Here are some of the lessons, the do's and don'ts that we've realized. We like our worker groups. We have, I believe, 6 worker groups now for different purposes. That has been really helpful for us. Again, the heavy forwarder, replace heavy forwarder apps with Cribl. It really wasn't hard. It seemed very daunting. But once we started working on it, we were able to do it. So y'all should be able to as well. The open support cases, we are very bad at this. JP and I, if we run into an issue, we're pretty hard-headed and want to solve things on our own. But the times we have open support cases, Cribl support has been so helpful, very responsive, very quick. And so we definitely suggest doing that. Using the Cribl Slack and the community, there have been a couple times where JP has run into an issue and someone else in the community, one of y'all will reply that you run into the same thing, and we're able to help each other. So that's been nice. And then shout out to the Cribl community user group. Definitely reach out to your Cribl support or Cribl sales team for those. And then some don'ts. We don't suggest using a single syslog port just for routing and pipeline purposes. We found it easier to split that up Don't wait until the end to decide on a naming convention. We learned this the hard way and had to retroactively go back and rename everything. And a tip there, we do send our pipeline names to our SIEM. So it's been very helpful. We started putting like the short name of our worker groups in the pipeline, so that when we go look at the data in the SIEM, we can see, hey, we know where the worker group came from. So that's been very helpful. Definitely don't wait until the end to set up detailed monitoring. JP was pretty on top of that. He got monitoring set up fast, but that's been helpful because of anomalies, resources going down, things like that. We have the monitoring in place to notify and alert us if that happens. Someone said this early in their talk, but don't skimp on secrets. It's so easy to hard code secrets when you're setting up collectors. You're just testing. You're like, I'll do the secret later. But typically, at least for me, I don't go back and do that. So I would say just get in the habit, do the work up front, and do secrets correctly with Cribl. And then don't forget about rolling restart percentages. We waited a year before we kind of looked into that, but Cribl does have rolling restart percentages for when you upgrade stuff. So for a year, we were just upgrading things and everything was going down at once, and it never really caused any issues, but we learned you can actually put the percentage of the number of workers you want to restart at a time and upgrade at a time. That's been really nice. So we went and set that. That way we don't have any outages or any data missing. So we definitely recommend that. Okay, and then just some of the life lessons we took away from it. Cribl does make switching SIEMs feasible. Again, 1.5, 2 people over the course of 6 months, a very immature IT group in general, we were able to do it. And we were able to, again, create that app ecosystem that Splunk had in Cribl, which was very nice. SIEMs are not created equal. They're idiosyncrasies. With Cribl, we were able to kind of take our minds off of the data side of things. We didn't have to worry so much about setting up the SIEM because Cribl makes that very easy. We could learn more about the SIEM we were moving to. So we could look at the detection logic and the correlation rules and the things about the SIEM that we needed to learn to make our place more secure. Again, monitor everything, set up alerts, set up reports and such. That way you can be on top of your game, making sure things don't go down, everything. And I think that's it.
Yeah, well, you did ignore the last point, which is don't ignore Cribl Search. But I highly recommend it. Like I said, we're not using it a lot. We've got a lot of plans this year to roll out more. The product is maturing and improving. There's a lot of stuff I've seen this week for new features there. So yeah, don't forget that you have it. You're already licensed for it if you own Cribl. So I strongly suggest getting to grips with it. But yeah, so that's kind of a high-level overview of our journey there. But thanks everyone for listening. I don't know if there's time for questions or anything. If anyone has one, happy to answer them. Quite a few. Okay. Do we take turns on these? Or?
Hello. Hi.
Hi.
Okay, so I know that you're not the Dynatrace experts, but do you have any more information about how Dynatrace is routed through Cribl? Is it sent from the one agents or?
Not from the one agent. So we pull data from Davis, isn't it? The
Grail.
Oh,
Grail. Yeah.
So you're doing a pull from Grail, pulling it through?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. One agent doesn't support sending to Cribl.
Okay. Thank you.
No worries.
So you moved away from universal forwarders to what exactly? That was a Dynatrace? Okay.
Dynatrace, yeah. Well, and we have CrowdStrike as well as an agent, but we didn't have a huge universal forwarder fleet, so they replaced those with Dynatrace, which pulls in all the logs automatically. So we're able to pull logs, both some we stream all the time into CrowdStrike, and some we pull on demand.
And that was a decision made with the professional services with CrowdStrike, I'm assuming?
No, those are the observability teams doing this, yeah.
That's what they wanted to go with?
Yeah.
Okay, understood. Thank you.
Yeah, no worries.
Thank you. Yep. I'll go this way.
So within 6 months, you went from Splunk to Splunk Cloud to CrowdStrike.
No, we had Splunk Cloud the whole time. Sorry if that wasn't unclear.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
We had on-prem heavy forwarders was the data collection. Yeah.
Okay, it makes more sense now. Okay.
No worries.
6 months, I'm like, wow.
Well, we probably could have.
So I did notice when you were going through your presentation, when you're talking about your input, your outputs, or your throughput numbers, out of curiosity, I didn't see a lot of your talk about the optimization that you guys were achieving. Are you doing any general optimization? And I guess alongside that, your increase in ingest, was that just due to the fact that you were getting higher fidelity data out of using the Cribl tool across its different platforms, or was it because you were onboarding more sources, or a combination of both?
Yep, mostly onboarding new sources. In terms of optimization, we're not at this time doing a whole lot of like log reduction, but that's going to come up, as we've grown it quite significantly. So I wanted to make sure we had a tool that now when the time comes, we can crunch that down. We have that lever to pull, right?
Yeah.
So it's good. And so mainly grabbing new data, and it's easy to onboard data, with Cribl, especially the REST sources. They're only getting easier. There was a talk yesterday about the new REST packs. That's only going to make that feedback loop quicker. So yeah.
That's awesome. Thank you.
No worries.
Any other questions? No? Awesome.
Okay, well, thanks everybody.
Merrick,
And feel free to reach out to us if you have any more issues.
Thank y'all.